Hey, how's it going guys? Chris here, and today I'm going to be giving you a few tips for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which might just come in handy, especially if you're a bit of a noob and are trying it out for the first time. The tips in this video are relatively basic, but they're all things you should probably know, to help you win a bit more, die a bit less, and generally have a more comfortable time playing the game. So in no particular order, tip number 1, make the most of the new tactical sprint mechanic. In Modern Warfare, there's a pretty new way of getting around the map, which hasn't been in the game before. Of course, sprinting's been there pretty much forever, but now you can actually choose how fast you move, at the cost of having a slightly longer delay to ready your weapon after running. Tapping the sprint button once will activate a normal sprint, just like you're probably used to when playing a typical shooter game. But double tapping the sprint button will activate the new tactical sprint mechanic, often referred to as super sprint. And this will increase your movement speed even further, allowing you to get around the map in less time. This boost in speed can be pretty handy in quite a lot of scenarios, whether it be to get to an objective quicker, traverse around those dangerous open sight lines more safely, running to and from cover, or even to escape an enemy or kill streak that's probably going to send you back to the spawn screen, if you can't get out of the way quick enough. Though there is the catch of it slowing down your ready up time, so it's not exactly a great idea to use it constantly, especially if you're running into the unknown, where a potential enemy player might be waiting to gun you down. See that bar at the top of the screen showing digits and information? Well, that's your compass, which looks a bit like something you'd probably see in Skyrim. And this can be a pretty useful thing to give you some tactical knowledge on the whereabouts of your enemy's positions. As you'll probably notice when playing, you'll see red diamonds and arrows popping up on the compass as you turn around and look in different directions. These are actually indicating the location of your enemies as they fire their weapons, with the arrows representing enemy fire in the direction outside of your view. Not quite as precise as a minimap, but still a very important thing to give you a general idea on the direction your targets are, giving you some quick reference for when to spawn switch over and enemies start gunning down your teammates from the other side of the map. It's the next best thing to have in a minimap, which may or may not return in the final build of the game, but nevertheless it's vital to use your compass for quick reference, as it might alert you of incoming threats from behind to give you more tactical information. You might have noticed that when you play objective-based modes like Domination, where you need to capture points on the map, as you stand near the point to take it, a progress bar will appear running around the points indicator to show that you, a teammate, or an enemy is capturing it, and once it fills up, it'll be yours or theirs. This is a pretty normal thing to see in the COD games, but quite often in the past, a player would have to stand next to the point without getting killed in order to capture it, which is the same kind of deal in Modern Warfare, but you can actually leave the point now, partway through capturing it, and still keep the progress towards the capture, for you or your teammate to continue. So basically, if you're halfway through capturing an enemy point, but quickly come under fire, or get a load of nades lobbed at you, all the progress you made up to the point where you decided to retreat will still be kept, allowing you to take care of the enemies attacking you, and then return back to the point to finish the job, rather than having to start the capture all over again. A lot of the time in Call of Duty, using aggressive tactics and rushing around the map mowing down anyone you bump into is a pretty common way to play the game, and you can often be very successful by doing this if you're a good player. In Modern Warfare, you can still be aggressive to a certain extent, depending on the situation and what weapon you happen to be using, but you'll often have a lot more luck by slowing down the tempo a bit and adopting a slightly more defensive playstyle instead. I'm not saying you should camp in a window for 5 minutes, which is also a pretty common thing for people to do in Modern Warfare, but instead of being gung-ho and running out into the open all the time, it's often best to check your sight lines before advancing, and move around a little bit slower, only running when you need to, and keeping an eye out for enemies at all times. There's a hell of a lot of campers in the game, and there's also a lot of places where they might be hiding. You might want to stay scoped in whilst walking around a corner to get an advantage on someone who might already be there, and use cover as much as you can, standing behind objects while scanning the environment for any possible threats, and only moving forwards when you think it's safe to do so. Tip number 5, learn the maps well. This is something that will come over time, so if you're a bit of a noob and haven't really had much of a chance to play the maps yet to know all the routes and shortcuts, then don't worry, because you'll pick these up the more you play. Map knowledge is really important in most multiplayer shooters, but it's probably even more important in Modern Warfare specifically, mainly due to the fact that a lot of players will literally be sat waiting for you to move into their sights as they patiently sit behind some form of cover. So knowing the ins and outs of every map and all the sightlines and spots where enemies might be waiting is pretty crucial, because if you don't, you're probably going to get cut down by enemy fire a lot more than you'll probably like. Unlike a lot of the past games, Modern Warfare's maps have quite a lot of verticality, and you can reach high up areas, windows and rooftops by climbing up on objects and things in the environment. Knowing where these said objects are can open up new flanking routes and give you access to vantage points, overlooking objectives and key areas. Plus they can also allow you to peep over walls and gain new sightlines too, to get the drop on the enemies waiting in more obvious places. Your field upgrade is another piece of equipment that's part of your loadout, separate from your weapons, lethals, tacticals and perks, granting you with an extra thing to help you out while you're out on the field. On the heads up display, just above the weapon information, you'll see an icon displaying your chosen field upgrade, which can be used after a specific recharge time, also shown here with a bluish looking bar. It's quite easy to forget about these while you're wandering around looking for people to shoot, but they can offer you some great situational advantages, giving you a tactical edge in certain scenarios. They all do different things and have different recharge times, but you can do things like deploy a short barrier to use for cover, which can be especially handy if you're capturing an enemy point or locking down an area, whereas another field upgrade will allow you to restock yourself and allies with ammo by using a placeable ammo box. There's quite a few of these to choose from, all fitting into different playstyles, and offering different tactical advantages, whether it be temporarily silencing your footsteps, letting you spawn in a set place, or even giving you your very own remote controlled drone. It's best to pick one that suits your loadout and style of play, and remember to use it whenever you're in a good spot to do so. In the past, if you've just unlocked a new weapon or attachment by reaching a certain rank, you'd normally have to wait till the end of the match to go and stick it on a new loadout and try it out. In Modern Warfare, you can now adjust your loadouts on the go, so if you've just equipped a new sight on your weapon of choice and you're not a big fan of it, you can naturally change it back now at mid-game. It's kinda similar to the one-man army perk from Modern Warfare 2. And because there's just so many attachments and perks that can drastically alter the characteristics of guns when combined in different ways, being able to switch them around in the middle of a match will definitely make it easier to experiment with different combinations, and see what works and what doesn't, instead of having to wait till the end of every round. The fact that you can edit your loadout on the fly also means that you can adjust to your enemy's tactics too, and counter them. So say for instance, if a sniper's locking down an area from a window, you can equip some longer ranged optics onto your gun to get a clearer view of them, probably making them easier to take down. Just remember that you can now do this, and change your loadouts in the menus, without having to wait for a match to finish. One thing I'd highly advise you to do in pretty much all first person shooters, let alone COD, is to swap around your crouch and melee buttons in the controller settings on console, and you can do this by selecting the tactical option in the settings menu. Typically the right thumbstick is a lot more accessible and easier to tap quickly to perform the action quicker. You'll be crouching down and hitting the deck a lot more often than stabbing people with your knife, and this will allow you to hide behind cover easier while reloading, something you'll probably be doing a fair bit in Modern Warfare. The fact that there's also a slide mechanic now, which is activated by holding down the crouch button while running, also makes this a more simpler move to pull off successfully. And after a bit of practice, you should find that having the crouch set to the right thumbstick makes you much more manoeuvrable when getting to cover. It'll also allow you to drop shot easier too, if you really want to do that. Tip number 9, aim for the chest. This might sound a bit strange because a lot of people would naturally say aiming for the head is the best way to go, which is a pretty good idea if you're using a sniper rifle, but otherwise fully automatic weapons will typically drift upwards due to their recoil. So if you aim for the chest, your bullets are going to be naturally directed upwards towards their head after the first couple of rounds fired. Headshots are really brutal in Modern Warfare, and they can often be a surefire way to win a gunfight against another player, cutting kill times down dramatically. So if you manage to land them more often, you'll be able to take people down a lot quicker. If you aim for the head with a fully automatic weapon, then your first shot's probably going to do some nice damage, but the recoil will quite often force your next shots to fly over your opponent's head, missing your target outright. Especially if you've picked a gun that kicks around quite a lot. So going for the chest is often a more reliable way to deal consistent damage, which can often lead to you netting more headshots as well. And last tip of the day, counter the recoil of your weapons by bursting your shots in smaller groupings. The weapon mechanics in Modern Warfare are a bit more advanced than in a lot of the past games, and the guns kick around in very different ways. Some of them have a lot of kick that'll force your shots to stray off target no matter where you aim on their body. So if you picked a gun with a fair amount of bounce, like an unmodified AK-47 for example, then you're quite often best bursting your shots and tapping the trigger if you're trying to take on someone further away, rather than holding that trigger down and watching your sights fly all over the place. This will give you a bit more accuracy, and therefore allow you to cut down kill times in enemies over mid to long ranges, possibly allowing you to win a gunfight. Though if you're within close quarters, going full auto is usually fine enough to do what you need to do. Just take into account the distance between you and the enemy, and work that around the weapon that you've got equipped, bursting fire more so if said weapon has a lot of recoil. So that's pretty much it for this one folks, hope this video helped you out, leave me a like if it did, and make sure you subscribe for more content coming very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in that next episode.